Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is another 10 games to add to the Spectrum list. This is 10 games based on TV shows. Most of these TV shows will be UK based, I would say. There are a few that were obviously made in America as well, but they were all shown on TV in the UK. It's just there might be a few on here if you're outside of the UK that you wouldn't have heard of. But maybe you've heard of them through the ZX Spectrum, who knows? There's definitely a couple of very British ones on here, to say the least, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm not necessarily saying, by the way, that these games are great games. It's just these are games that fit into this category, and most of them are very playable, but we'll discuss that later. You'll see some of the scores they get, and I guess you'll know if they're for you. Okay, without further ado, let's crack on with the 10. Okay, we start this 10 with Minder, released in 1985 for £9.99. Crash magazine here, scored it 75%. I am doing something slightly different with this one. I'm not just going to show gameplay footage, we're going to have a quick look at the magazine reviews. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen after a few seconds. Just going to look at some of the gameplay first while I talk about it, and then we'll shove the review up. Gives you a chance to pause the video if you're interested in looking at the old Crash review, which I thought was quite a good idea. I did this a lot with my Amiga 500 videos, but anyway, I don't want to talk too much over this video because we're supposed to be talking about Minder. It got 75% overall. Some weird scores they give the game, but the use of computer 75%. I don't quite know what the heck that means. Graphics 60, playability 60, getting started 65. That's another odd one. Predictive quality 75%. Value for money is pretty good, 60%. And some of the summations they give, it says good Minder tune, so I quite like that. An absorbing and interesting game. One of the critiques though says Minder is a sort of trading simulation game, not unlike the TV series. Well, I don't think that's a trading simulation game, but I think I know what they're saying. A game follows the same buy and selling routine with dodgy faces, skirmishes with the old bill. The point I would like to make is that if the game existed without the TV tie-in, it would not really rank as anything special. Don't accuse me of being anti-TV variant. I don't know what the hell that means. As I'm a great fan of Minder, and I think the game is a very good idea. It really could have been expanded upon to make more interesting and variable, but it's still amusing and challenging, and it improves with play. All right, my son. Fair enough. I'm guessing that's something they used to say a lot in Minder. Minder's one of them programs I think I enjoyed it when I watched it, but because I was only like 11, 12, that sort of age when it was on, I don't think it was really aimed at me, so I never really loved it that much. But I did play the game a lot and I did enjoy that, so there we have it. And I know a few people have been recommending Minder for the 10s or the 20 games to added lists, so here it is. You've got your wish, and yeah, I was going to come around to this at some point, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, overall it's a good game. It says on here, sell goods, you'll need some victims, and Minder offers a choice of locations where they may be found, prime one being the Winchester Club, which is obviously from the TV show. You can go to your home, the lockup, Terry's flat, the Winchester Club, or any one of 8 dealers. Arriving at a location, you'll be confronted with a set of windows. If they're empty, then no one's in, otherwise there will be pictures of various characters present. This review grammatically makes no sense. To talk to a character, simply enter appropriate the frame number. What the hell? That's slightly bad grammar. Not very well edited, this version of this edition of Crash, by the looks of it. But anyway, we kind of know what they're talking about. Yes, it's a good game. I enjoyed it a lot, and I know some of you guys do too, because I've seen plenty of people recommended Minder. And I think, like I said, if I had included it in this 10, I probably would have included it in a future one for sure. So if you haven't had a go at this game and you are interested in the show at all, it's definitely loyal to the show. It's definitely good fun, and I'd give it a try. Alright, moving on to the next game. It's Airwolf by Elite, which was released for £6.95 in 1984. And in the particular review I'm going to show in a little while, it scored 90%. That's in Crash magazine. It actually got a Crash Smash. That's actually surprisingly hard to say, Crash Smash. It just sounded weird in my head when I said that. But yes, we'll show a little bit of the game here. I don't know if you're aware of the TV show. Let me describe it as it says in Crash. It says, as Stringfellow Hawk, a former Vietnam chopper pilot and the only man in the free world trained to fly the billion-dollar helicopter Airwolf, you've been assigned a dangerous rescue mission by the firm. So I don't know how aware you are of the TV show. I absolutely loved Airwolf back then. Jan Michael Vincent. I didn't like it when he left the show. I can't remember why he left the show. All I remember is in like the second incarnation of Airwolf, Dick Van Dyke's son was in it and it wasn't as good, but Jan Michael Vincent was really good as the aforementioned Stringfellow Hawk. I never remembered that was his name though, to be honest. That is a heck of a name, isn't it? Let's be honest with you. Right, we'll show you the review now in Crash. Again, we've got the weird ratings of use of computer, 85%. Graphics 92, playability 91. Yeah, it's got nice graphics actually. Getting started 89, addictive qualities 95, value for money 90, overall 90. This got some stinking reviews in some of the other magazines though, so I guess it's all subjective. I remember playing Airwolf and liking it. I also remember I had a game on the Commodore 64 called Fort Apocalypse, which was also a helicopter game, and I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed Airwolf. I found this game quite difficult when I used to play it, but still a lot of fun. Let's go over the mission briefing by the firm. It says 5 important US scientists are being held hostage deep in a subterranean base beneath a scorching Arizona desert. You must guide Airwolf on a series of perilous missions and bring about their release, each scientist one at a time. Only destruction of defense control boxes strategically positioned within the cavern will allow Airwolf to descend to the heart of the base where the scientists are held. This game, yeah, it always reminded me of Fort Apocalypse. I just think that Fort Apocalypse did it better. That's my opinion, but I don't even know if Fort Apocalypse was actually released on the ZX Spectrum. That's something I'll have to look into, but I loved it on the Commodore 64, I know that. As ever, we'll read one of the criticisms while I show you a bit of gameplay. It says Airwolf is one of those games you're either going to be terribly addicted to and play to death, or you're going to switch it off. It's not that the game is bad, on the contrary it's very good, but it's so damn hard to get into and takes practice just to get through the first obstacle. Yeah, this is what I struggled with personally back then. I liked it, but it was very hard for me. Like all other Elite games, Airwolf has very good graphics and sound is alright. Your helicopter responds well to your actions and the game is fun to play. Be better with a couple of friends. If you fancy yourself a bit of an arcade ace, then Airwolf could well prove you wrong. A vital accessory for this game is a strong firing finger. Without it, you're lost before you start. Airwolf is a slick program that's worth buying because it will keep you entertained for ages. Always good to read these little criticism ones. I think that's where you do find the crux of things. You don't always want to read positives, do you? On the main review it says Airwolf is a thoroughbred helicopter and like any aristocrat is difficult to handle. One problem being that it has to be flown to keep it airborne. None of this negative gravity to help with the shooting. And the summation on this review says this game is incredibly difficult but highly playable and addictive. Graphics are neat and futuristic, detail is quite an asset to this game. Elite have gone back into the air again with a winner. Why not buy it? Then you can suffer as much as I have had to. Ouch. Well, that's a stinging end to the review, but as you can see they gave it 90%, so they obviously liked it, and I know a lot of comments have come in recommending Airwolf. I mean, I played it a lot when I was younger, so definitely worth adding, I think, and yeah, add it to your Spectrum. Okay, number 3 on the list is Yes Prime Minister, released in 1987 for the rather hefty price of £14.95. It's of course based on the TV series of the same name, and it plays out a bit like a text adventure. You control British Prime Minister Jim Hacker, who starts the game with a 50% approval rating, and you've got to work over a 5-day period to improve the poll number. You get aided by Hacker secretaries Humphrey Appleby and Bernard Woolley, and if you're familiar with the TV show you'll know who they are. And the game's played through conversations between Hacker and other characters such as Humphrey and Bernard, with the player continually selecting responses from dialogue options, and the outcome of the story can vary depending on the response that you select. So there you go, that's a little synopsis of the game. Let's have a look at the review. This was from Your Sinclair. There's a lot of waffle at the beginning of this review, so I'm going to ignore all that because they're trying to be funny and failing in my opinion, but there you go. That's just my sense of humour, I guess. It says, Yes Prime Minister is but the latest license to be bought up by a software company and slapped onto your Spectrum. Company behind this wheeze is Mosaic, often known in the past mainly for a few low-key adventures. Yes Prime Minister is a very different kettle of memos. What with its plush red packaging, its digitised pics of the characters, and the hefty price tag, 15 nicker, I ask you. So what's it like? And move that will gladden the hearts of Mrs T and all the other Yes Prime Minister fans. I wish they wouldn't keep putting YPM in it, because it's like it's making me forget the name of the title when I read it. The Specky game is immensely faithful to the spirit of the show. So there you have it. Again, it was one of those shows that I have fondish memories of, but also it was probably a bit too adult for me at the time. I did actually play this game though, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if you can hear, sorry, a weird noise in the background. My cat is having a grooming session and she's got a bell on now on her collar, so it's jingle jangling, but if you can hear a weird noise in the background, that's probably what you can hear. Apologies for that. Yes, so I enjoyed playing the game, but I wasn't a massive fan of the show because, like I said, it was probably a bit too smart for me back then. You know, being a kid, It says the game's a multi-loader and takes place over 5 days, during which you have to avoid the Big E, which I assume that means the election. I can't remember much about the game. I do remember though, funnily enough, just a vague memory of playing this game all day long one time when I was off sick from school, sitting there with a bottle of Lucozade. I don't know if your mum used to do that when you was a kid, but as soon as I was sick, my mum used to always get me a bottle of Lucozade. And for some reason back then they always used to wrap it in like orange plastic, which is really weird. It used to be good though when you used to put it up to your eyes and you could see out of it and everything looked orange, but there you go, that's random. I shouldn't probably be sharing that. The summation on this one says, so if you're a fan of the wittiest and best written gag show on TV, you'll want to snap this up swift ho. It's only just this side of Adventureland, so it may not appeal to hardened zappers, but I look forward to many a warm winter evening trying to crack the Whitehall code and survive my week in office. As Jim Hacker himself once said, you've just got to grit your teeth and bite the bullet. Addictive and faithful translation of Dr. B's favourite sitcom to the Specky. Now who's going to do Blackadder? Sadly no one ever did, because that would be an interesting game, wouldn't it? But yes, there we have it. Yeah, it's a good game. I'm sure there's a few of you out there that have probably played this before. It's got a Your Sinclair mega game. Didn't get 100% favourable reviews of all the magazines again, I found, but I picked this one out because they gave it a bit of a glowing one, and I would certainly recommend it for sure. Okay, moving on. Number 4 on this list is Knight Rider, released in 1986 for £7.95. Now, Knight Rider was one of those shows. I loved it when I was a kid, but it was cheesy as hell. I mean, it was pure Hasselhoff, really. You know, I think we all know what that means. It was kind of more like a vehicle to show off David Hasselhoff than it was, you know, any kind of like proper decent TV. But to a kid in the 80s, the car and everything was so cool. The game itself, however, is not a good one. And like I said to you before, not all of the games that are on this list are good games necessarily. It's just like, you know, they are based on they fit the criteria. The review I chose from Sinclair User actually gives it 4 out of 5. So you think, oh, that's a good review, but even that's not a good review when you read it. We'll go over that in a second. Crash gave it 39%. Your Sinclair gave it 4 out of 10. And if you look at some of the Commodore 64 reviews, Zap 64, one of the best Commodore 64 magazines in my opinion, gave it 16%. And some magazine called Happy Computer gave it 18 out of 100. So you can see here, it's not exactly a great game, but it could be a game that's interesting to revisit simply because it's bad. You know, sometimes there's a morbid fascination with that sort of thing, isn't it? Anyway, let's go over the plot. Knight Rider is based on the series of the same name. Michael Knight and Kit learn about a terrorist plot intended to trigger World War III. Okay, there you go. there's the realms of fantasy already in play. The player is given a map of the United States and must choose one of several cities. Most of the game consists of driving levels in which the player travels to the selected city while avoiding enemy fire from oncoming helicopters. Let's have a look at the review of this in Sinclair User. I love the opening line about the irritatingly mediocre TV licensing deal. I mean, they went on to make irritatingly mediocre movie games as well, Ocean, didn't they? I always used to, my abiding memory of Ocean was great for games because of the classics that they did, but they did some absolute stinkers as well. We're not going to like sugarcoat that, to be honest with you. In the facts box, which is like almost like the summation, it says easily as amazingly mediocre as the TV series from which it's taken, but it doesn't qualify for so bad it's good. And they give it 4 out of 5, which I don't get. If you really think it's that bad, why are you giving it 4 out of 5? The graphics aren't very impressive, consisting of wide yellow road and occasional black lines shooting down the middle. Walk past guards and packing cases, both of which seem to have similar IQ. Once you reach the room, there's a delivery note or a packing slip. This is your clue as to where the next location lies. So it's back into the car and off on another road race to the next city, and the whole thing starts all over. It's not all that inspiring, is it? They really don't like this game, do they? And yet they decided to give it 4 out of 5. I don't know if that was like a decision based on, like, you know, bribery or something. And I am joking there before anyone wants to sue me. But, you know, it seems weird that they gave it such a high score, you know, because effectively that's 8 out of 10, and that is massively high compared to like what everybody else was giving it. So I'm not quite sure what happened in the marking process there. Maybe there was a smudge over a couple of the stars and they were only going to give it 2, but someone thought it was 4. I really couldn't tell you. But like I said, I don't have great memories of this game, which doesn't mean it's a bad game because I am not God. So, you know, it's not my word is final, but I don't remember this being very good. And judging by the reviews I've had the pleasure of picking through, they don't think it's very good either. But I am curious to see what it's like. I did like the TV show back in the day, so it might be good to at least put this on and have a little mooch through it. It might be a game that gets deleted very quickly, I don't know. Although I'm planning on buying a 32GB stick for the Spectrum, and I don't think I'm going to need that much space, so I can probably just keep it on there. It's not like I've got to delete all the ones I don't like. I think most people would agree this is probably not the best game on the planet, but I'm still going to add it for a bit of a laugh, so, you know, up to you whether you decide to do the same. The next game we're going to talk about is Mike Reed's Pop Quiz, released in 1989 for £7.99. I'll read you an overview online. It says, BBC Radio 1 DJ Mike Reed presented Pop Quiz music show, which is recreated here with questions from the 50s to the 80s. You can play against a computer or another human. Either way, select specialist subject and 2 teammates. The overall style presentation are very similar to Elite's earlier A Question of Sport license. In the first round, you select one of 12 random questions from the jukebox, each of which has 4 options. Correct answer earns you 2 points, while an incorrect answer gives your opponent the chance to steal for 1 point. In round 2, you get 3 clues to name a star. You get all 3 points for guessing them from 1 clue, 2 points from 2, and 1 point if you need all 3. In round 3, choose an easy question from your category for 1 point, or a hard one from someone else's for 2. Round 4 asks you to guess the year that a set of events happened in, with the scoring the same as round 2. Then comes the quickfire round, answer up to 9 questions in 45 seconds with a 2-second penalty for an incorrect answer. Finally, the 6 remaining jukebox pictures are revealed and answered. That's the game in a nutshell. We're going to look at Sinclair User, in which the game scored 79 out of 100. Fab TV / board game conversion, fingers on your buzzers. Again, this was another game that didn't get glowing reviews everywhere, but it got a good review in Sinclair User. And this is one where they actually do quite like it this time, not like the previous game. It says Pop Quiz is presented completely satisfactorily. There are semi-digitized pictures of Mike Reed as well as members of the teams. Alas, you can't digitize yourself, and you have to suffer the insane grins of the elite team. The questions seem to be alternately easy as pie and totally impossible, while some were simply so remarkably dull they weren't worth answering. It's pretty fab, of course. If you're not into pop or quizzes, you'll think it's hopeless. Me, I reckon it's the best game Elite has done in ages. I was wondering there if I was reading the same review, because it seemed like they were going to go right against this game for a second there, but kind of a bit all over the place with the phraseology there, but that's the way they summed the review up. And obviously we've already discussed how you play the game. I didn't play much of this one. I did play a lot of Question of Sport because I'm a sport nut, as anyone who watches this channel regularly will know. But I do love a quiz, and I do love music as well, so I would like to give this a bit more of a try actually. But it looks like it'll be a fun game, especially like if you've got a couple of players playing. And yeah, I used to watch this on TV back in the day as well, and I used to enjoy it. So yeah, I say it's a good game to add, and why not give it a go? Moving on to the 6th game on this list, it is Run the Gauntlet, released in 1989 for £8.99. This game show was something a little bit different. Competitors in this ITV game show had to show their prowess on a range of vehicles, including buggies, speedboats, quad bikes, jet skis, and inflatables. Players of this licensed version must do the same on horizontally and vertically scrolling levels on land and water. Many levels include enemy droids as well as inbuilt hazards, all of which must be avoided. The main unique event is The Hill, an assault course which takes place on foot. Up to 3 human players can take turns to contest the various events. The exact sequence of events is randomized each time. So let's take a look at the review. This one is a crash review, and it got 90%, presentation 92%, graphics 88%, sound 90%, playability 89%, addictive qualities 90%, and overall 90%. So they got rid of a couple of the weird rating systems in their reviews, but they added a different one, addictive qualities. That's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? But there you go. I like it when they do different ones though. This is a nice colourful review, so about time we had some colour, to be honest with you. You can see it's a later magazine, clearly. And they were focusing on when Martin Shaw was the presenter. He was the presenter, I think, for like one series of Run the Gauntlet, so he wasn't on it for long. Those of you know Martin Shaw from The Professionals, I'm pretty sure, from the 80s. And it was an odd game show, but pretty good fun. The game, I played this game on the Commodore Amiga, and I think I've played it on the ZX Spectrum, and it was really good actually. I actually quite enjoyed it, but I don't remember too much about it, to be fair, but I remember liking it at the time. Me and my brother used to play it a lot together. Let's read a few here. So we've got, let's read what Nick has to say, as he doesn't have too much to say on here. Core Wow Blimey, there's a good start. It's the Ace Telly program that's come to my Spectrum, and what a brill game it makes too. All the actions, thrills and spills of controlling vehicles like jet skis, supercats and speedboats have been excellently captured by Ocean. Each section has detailed vehicles and backgrounds, while the colour is restricted to the borders, livening things up but remaining colour clash free. Oral colour is provided by the catchy Run the Gauntlet tune, spurring the players on to get a better time, but unfortunately there are no sound effects. My only real quibble though is the small matter of the explosions. I thought they were only TV special effects, but if you get stuck over one in the game, it blows you back to the last screen. This is an excellent game, so go and run the gauntlet now. I'd left to let me know in the comments if you guys remember this show, not necessarily whether you've played the game, although you can tell me that too by all means, but did any of you watch the program itself way back when? I do remember watching it. I think I remember playing the video game more than watching the show, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but that's nothing new for me because I was absolutely obsessed with video games. But yeah, if you want a good little fun game, a little racing game, and something to be competitive with in multiplayer, then definitely I would say give this a try if you've never played it, and let me know what you think of it if you have played it before. I think, personally speaking, in this category it's definitely worthy of a place. Next is another game show of sorts. It's Nightmare, released in 1987 for £9.99. Nightmare was a popular children's TV programme set in a medieval fantasy world in which 3 players guided a 4th through a maze using a virtual reality system. In the first licensed game, you've been trapped in Daemonia Castle and must somehow escape. Viewed in 3D, you move your character around the rooms, while most other actions are activated using a verb-noun command system. By pressing the first letter of the first word, open, close, dig, and so on, and pressing enter once you've got the right word, you can then choose the second word. Options are context sensitive. For example, door only appears if you stand near one. There we go, there's the overview. I'm getting some of these overviews from Launchbox's games database, just so you know. Let's have a look at the review. It's another Sinclair user review. Colours are a bit garish on this one, especially the review itself, so you'll have to bear with me because that blue and yellow colour together are really quite hard to read, but there you go. Well, especially because it's a bit of a blurry review, but it's a Sinclair user classic, and it got 10 out of 10, which I haven't actually seen, I don't think, at all since I've been doing this, so that's pretty crazy, isn't it, really, when you think about it. Original and exciting game with something for everyone to get hooked on. Fast moving game for part-time thinkers. Superb. There you go. There's a review for you, and we'll see if we can zoom in and have a look at this one. Yeah, it really is a bit of a garish colour to look at. A TV show. I choked as visions of Blockbusters, Countdown and gasped EastEnders invaded my usually vacant mind. Worse, it's a TV show about wandering around a blue studio with paintings of dungeons matted on afterwards, with some poor klutz rendered blind by a big helmet being directed by 3 tragic morons and a middle-aged man with a beard whose interest is dangerously suspicious, and it does not sound like the soundest of bases on which to construct a computer game. But Nightmare, I'm surprised and pleased to say, is quite brilliant. Sinclair user had a habit of like doing some wacky things at the start of their reviews, didn't they? Absolutely crazy. You're at no disadvantage if you haven't seen the TV show of the same name, as the game successfully stands on its own. Nevertheless, if you're an addict of the Anglia TV 20-minuter, you'll be impressed by the similarity of feel that programmer Mev Dink has managed to achieve. Nightmare is an adventure in the truest sense of the word. You control the knight, guiding him around various levels of a ghastly world, solving problems as you go. It's difficult to give an idea of the play and feel of the game by comparing with previous titles, because the way it works is so original, but there are elements from other games like Fairlight here and even Valhalla. Yeah, I would agree with that, to be fair with you. I loved the TV show when I was a kid. I preferred things when I was younger, more like cartoons, stuff like that, and maybe a bit of Rent-A-Ghost, that sort of thing. So on paper, it probably wasn't something I should have been interested in, but yeah, it was just something about Nightmare. I think it was so ahead of its time, the way it was done. It was almost like virtual reality before virtual reality existed. It's crazy. There is a picture on the review as well of the actual TV program. That is not part of the video game. You can see right in the middle of the screen with the beardy guy. That is a picture from the TV show itself, probably the poster actually. But Nightmare, I think most kids who grew up in the UK in the 80s will be aware of Nightmare, and a fantastic game show. The game itself, it's not like, you know, an absolute replica of the game show, but it's its own thing, and it's really good. And I definitely would advise you, if you've got any passing interest in the show, or like if you've got a passing interest in this sort of genre, for sure give this a go. It's a good game, really good. And yeah, 10 out of 10. What can I say? I can't remember what the other magazines gave it, to tell you the truth, but I picked this one because, you know, 10 out of 10. We haven't seen one yet, so glowing recommendation indeed. Let me know in the comments if you've played it, and I think it's definitely worthy of a place on the spectrum. It was going to go on mine anyway, but yeah, I think it belongs perfectly within this category. Next up we have Roland Rat Race, released in 1985 for £6.90. This is a game I've actually never played, and I'm quite surprised because I was a massive fan of Roland Rat when I was a kid. I used to literally get up at the crack of dawn to watch Roland's Countdown to Christmas on TV AM. I used to open my advent calendar along with Roland Rat and get all excited. It was awesome. He was great when I was a kid, but I never played the game, so I'm quite surprised about that. This has got a very long overview, so I'm not going to read all of this because like this is going to take forever to read, but we'll read a little bit of it. Roland Rat, TV AM's furry little superstar extraordinaire, has got problems. It all started when Roland got up late for work and not exactly feeling on top of the world. As if being late wasn't bad enough, Roly finds out his rather decrepit car won't start. Disaster. Still, there's always a shortcut through London's sewer system, which Roly knows so well from his lurid past as a city rat. He'll make it to the telly studios before 9 o'clock, don't you worry. Being late is, however, the least of his problems. A highly disreputable bunch of nasties have kidnapped Roly's friends. Yes, you've guessed it, Errol the hamster and Kevin the gerbil are in deep trouble. Out of the goodness of his heart, Roland decides to set out and rescue Errol and Kev. So let's take a look at the review. This is another Sinclair user review, 4 out of 5, but this is a good 4 out of 5. It's not like the last one we read where the game actually got slagged off and got 4 out of 5. The bit that stands out for me, which made me laugh, it says, finding the pieces is hard work and Roland has had no breakfast. He must get by on a diet of Big Macs and crisps, which will boost his energy level. That's a hell of a concept there, isn't it? The game relies heavily on the player's identification with Roland, and those who are not enamored with the superstar might find that play can be monotonous after more than 30 minutes, although the C5 trundling across the top of the screen with the other rush hour traffic provides some light relief. Various screens look deceptively familiar, and map making is essential if Roland is to avoid running around in circles. Graphics, while not outstanding, are smooth and fast. The scroll from one room to another is particularly impressive. And the final summation on the review: Roland's Rat Race will be of interest to rat fans everywhere. Although he's not his usual verbal self, his rambling computer adventures give new meaning to cuteness on the arcade screen. In the final analysis, is it good fun? Yeah, or yeah, as Roland Rat used to say. Oh god, that's an embarrassing impression. But anyway, I'm surprised I haven't played this game, and I wonder if you guys have, if you were fans. Let me know in the comments. I've never played it, so I am looking forward to adding this one in particular and giving it a go. It looks pretty good, looks colourful, and I guess we'll see. The only downside is it's an ocean game, so it could be rubbish, but according to this review, 4 out of 5 again, so sounds like it could be okay. And I think, personally speaking, there's room for Roland Rat definitely on the spectrum, without a doubt, because Roland Rat was awesome. So yeah, give this game a go if you've not played it. If you have played it before, let me know if it's worth it. Well, it's time for another game show, and this one is Blockbusters, released in 1984 for £7.95. Blockbusters was massive in the UK, without a shadow of a doubt. No one can forget Bob Holness and the famous catchphrase, "I'll have a pee please, Bob," which became like legendary. It's one thing I didn't know when I was doing the research, and I'll read the overview. It's a very short one on Launchbox Games database here, and it says Blockbusters is a British television game show based upon an American game show of the same name, in which contestants answer trivia questions to complete a path across or down a game board of hexagons. Now, I didn't know there was a US version of this, to be honest with you. It always seemed like incredibly British, you know, with Bob Holness presenting it and stuff. I never realised, and I guess we didn't get exposed to that in this country because, you know, we didn't get a lot of American TV shows back in the early 80s. So yeah, I'm quite surprised. But it did definitely come before the UK show, which shocking to me, that, to be honest with you. The review is from Crash Magazine, and again we've got the wacky little review things here. We've got use of computer again, 80%. I still don't understand that one. Graphics not applicable. I don't get that. I mean, again, there isn't much on the screen, I grant you, but not applicable. It has got graphics, technically speaking, so I don't know why it wouldn't get a score. Playability 88%, getting started 78%. See, I don't understand that, because obviously I played this game for the purposes of the review, and it's just you switch it on and you start a game up. Getting started only gets 78%. I don't understand what the criteria is for that one, to be honest. Couldn't be simpler to start a game. Addictive qualities 83%, value for money 80%, overall 82%. The only thing I would say about this game is it's 2-player, so you can't play 1 player against the computer. As far as I'm aware, if you could do that, I couldn't work out how to do it. I literally had to put 2 players in. So I don't know if it's possible to play only 1 player, which is a bit strange, to be honest with you. I can't find it in the review either to say that. I mean, one of the criticisms it says here, it says it's best to play this game with only 2 people in the room, as others can't resist joining in, and they always know how to spell better than me and always help my opponent. Fair enough. But yeah, it's a bit weird that. I would have thought you would be able to play against the computer, but maybe they just decided that the computer was too intelligent, would probably get the answers right all the time. So let's have a little read through some elements of the review. The game is surely well enough known not to have to describe it in detail. Basically, 2 players attempt to beat each other across a matrix of hexagons in a 4x4 shape. Each hexagon contains a letter of the alphabet. Player takes turns to select a letter, at which point a question appears at the bottom of the screen, the initial letter of the answer being the selected hexagon letter. Either player may interrupt and answer it against the time limit. A successful answer results in the hexagon being coloured in the player's colour. The first to blaze a trail right across the playing space from top to bottom or from either side is the winner. A set of questions is automatically loaded with the game, where there are other question sets on tape which will be loaded if requested. Players may select from 9 difficulty levels and on a series of games from 1 to 9. So there we have it. That's basically it. And if you don't know how Blockbusters works, where have you been living? But maybe you wasn't born in the 80s. Maybe you're a fan of the Spectrum who's grown up, you know, in the 2000s and doesn't know anything about Blockbusters. Who knows? If you are lucky enough to be one of those people, then get on it and educate yourself on Blockbusters, because it is good fun. I used to love watching it back when, and it was one of them game shows that you felt like you had a chance at. It wasn't something like, you know, a university challenge or something like that where you had absolutely no chance. Blockbusters gave you a chance because it gave you a clue. You know, you knew what the answer began with. Even on the gold run, when it was multiple letters, that's what you played at the end, basically. But I don't think it's included on this. I think you can get a separate Blockbusters game called Gold Run, but we're not going to go into that because that's nothing to do with this as such. If you've watched Blockbusters, you know what the Gold Run is. And yes, it's great fun. And who doesn't like a quiz game at the end of the day? So definitely good to add to the Spectrum, I would say, and especially if you want to play a multiplayer game with other people. And so we've hit the final game on this list, Street Hawk, released in 1986 for £7.95. It's another ocean game, and it's another not very good ocean game, if we're perfectly honest with ourselves. Street Hawk was a 1985 American action television series, and it aired for 14 episodes only. That's shocking, to be honest with you. I thought they would have had a lot more than that, but that's quite surprising. I thought Street Hawk ran for a while. 14 episodes. That's crazy. After an intensive 18-month research program, Jesse Mark's superbike is finally ready to hit the mean streets. Jesse has vowed to avenge the death of his best friend and goes on a mission to take down the villains wherever they may be. But Jesse need not look no further than the street. The baddies are driving XR3s, so all it would take is one laser blast in the XR3's fuel tank and cars are immobilized. Zooming along, the player has to serve through traffic, dodging bullets fired by the bad guys and eliminating carloads of criminals while taking care not to kill innocent civilians. And let's have a look at the review, and I couldn't find a good review of this one, so the best I could do was a review from Crash, where it gets 68%. Again, we've got their wacky system here. Use of computer 68%, graphics 73, playability 66, getting started 72, addictive quality 68, value for money 66, overall 68%. So not that high. Again, I apologize if this game means a lot to you, you know, if you played it. I suppose 68 isn't terrible. I've not really played any of this game before. It's another one that slipped through the net. I watched Street Hawk when it was on TV. That's why I'm astonished there was only 14 episodes, to be honest. Let's read one of the criticisms here. Well, was it worth the wait? Not really. This might have been a good game 18 months ago, but it's just another vertically scrolling race game with a few knobs on. The graphics are pretty and there are some neat effects like jumping and the shadows on everything. There's nothing very original or demanding about this game, and somehow it doesn't seem to have been finished off. For instance, when the bike finally packs up as a result of too much collision damage, the game grinds to a halt after you lose control. No doubt the licensing deal will ensure it sells well. The next one's pretty damning because it says, a year and a half wait for this trite game. Come on, Ocean, you are more concerned with your licensing deals than the quality of your games. I was expecting great things from this game until I saw how bad Knight Rider was. Well, we've already talked about that. Thankfully, this is a little more playable than Knight Rider, but it still isn't state of the art. Graphics are very strange indeed. Judging from the shape of your bike, it was made in the 1920s. Ouch. And we have another verdict down here. I found the final version of Street Hawk a lot better than its early incarnation. Despite not being in the top grade category, I enjoyed playing it, and despite the bad feeling that was obviously created by the long delay between advertising and game release, I think this game should go down well amongst the games buying public. Not bad. So there you go, that's the final ringing endorsement. Not bad is the best this game can do, quite frankly. I can't comment, I've never played it, so I will be delving into this one myself for the first time. Let me know in the comments if you've played it, and like I said, I'm not pissing on anyone's bonfire when it comes to saying this is a bad game. I actually don't know. So if this game means something to you, then blame the people of Crash for the harsh words they said on this one. They are not my opinions yet. Once I've played it, then I may give my opinion at some point. But yeah, if you want a game that reminds you of 1980s television again, Street Hawk's perfect for that. So there we have your 10 games based on TV shows. They are Minder, Airwolf, Yes Prime Minister, Knight Rider, Mike Reed's Pop Quiz, Run the Gauntlet, Nightmare, Roland's Rat Race, Blockbusters and Street Hawk. Let me know in the comments if you've played any of these and what you think of them. I like most of these games, to be fair. There's a few that I didn't play that much way back when, but there's a few here that I played quite a lot. So, and there's a couple of these games that I did think about adding to earlier top 10s, but I finally got around to doing it. So there we go. Again, you know, I'm not going to add every single game that was on the ZX Spectrum, because according to like recent ROM lists, if you go on World of Spectrum and places like that, you'll find that there's probably about 20-30,000 games, including some, I guess, that programmers have just made themselves. But yeah, there's a lot of games basically that are out there. And that's not even including a lot of the new ones that have been made. So I don't think I'll be going through every single game on this channel, to be fair. I think by the time the Spectrum's released and it's kind of run its course in terms of like me doing top 10s and 10s to add and all the rest of it, that we're probably going to be looking at about 200 or 300, which is a very small portion when you think about it, of like 20,000. So it's not like every game's going to get covered at some point. There will be games that will be omitted, and I'm finding that a lot in the comments, that people are saying you forgot this and you forgot that, and it's like, I didn't forget. So far I've only covered about 40 games, I believe, or maybe 55 or something like that, you know, because I did a 25 and whatever. I can't remember exactly what I've done. I've done a lot, but it's a very small percentage of the games that are available, and we all have our favourites. You know, some of these games on here, looking at the magazine reviews even, were given stinking results, and yet some of the magazines rated them quite highly. So, you know, opinions are subjective, aren't they, really? But there you go. Let me know in the comments though if you've played any of these and what you think of them. And obviously, as always, your opinions on games that could have been included or should have been. Like I said, these are not the top 10 games based on TV shows. These are just 10 games that were based on them. Try to pick a bit of variety, you know, a few things that are a bit different. When I could have gone with like Miami Vice and things like that, we would have had a lot of American shows on here. I was trying to balance it out a little bit, and as it is, we've got 3 on there on the list, but you know, I'm trying to sort of give a bit of variety. But I know there are some other games out there, and maybe there's enough to do another top 10, who knows. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, or if you're already subscribed, please do like the video, because it does help. I always get a few dislikes, but you know, can't please everybody, can you? But I do get a lot of likes, so I do thank you for that and a lot of support, and I really do just want to take 2 seconds to say thank you so much for all your comments. I do appreciate them. I do try to get to all of them. If I have forgotten to reply to one of your comments, it's never through malice or anything. It's just I do get a lot, and sometimes with my health, like I've not been well, as we've already covered on a couple of the other videos. I don't want to keep banging on about that, but you know, sometimes I'll get a whole flurry of comments in, but as I'm feeling under the weather, I'll be like, oh, I'll do those later. Then I might get a whole other flurry of comments in, and before we know it, I'm up to my eyeballs in them. So, and yeah, I want comments to keep coming, but then they can sometimes slip through the cracks. So I do apologize if I've not replied to one of your comments. Point it out, and if that's the case, I can go back and check for it, but I can't check for that. I mean, some of my videos have got over 300 comments on, so it's quite time consuming, and as you can see with the frequency I'm getting these videos up, or not, as the case may be, you know, it takes a while to get these done too. I'm sure you'd rather have new videos than, you know, just me replying to every comment. So anyway, but do keep them coming, because I do appreciate them, and I do read every single one of them, I can assure you of that. So thank you very much, and thanks for all your support. I really do appreciate it. Okay guys, take care, have a fantastic night. I'll speak to you later. Bye for now.